This week on Inside the Headset, we are featuring LSU's Director of Player Development, Eddie Kennison. Kennison discusses the importance of player development, shares the impact of social media in college football, and highlights the value of developing relationships with players and coaches. But first, a word from our sponsor.
The All-State AFCA Good Works team has been one of the most esteemed honors in college football for more than 25 years. The student-athletes who are nominated for this award demonstrate a unique dedication to community service and desire to make a positive impact on the world around them. The Good Works team is comprised of 11 players from the FBS and 11 players from the FCS, Division II, Division III, and the NAIA, as well as one honorary head coach. To be in consideration by All-State and the AFCA for a nomination, each player must be actively involved with a charitable organization or service group while maintaining a strong academic standing. Past Good Works team members include notable players such as Peyton and Eli Manning and Tim Tebow. Coaches, do you have a player that you think embodies the values of the Good Works team? Be sure to connect with your SID to discuss potential nominees. To nominate a player or head coach, have your SID email vince@afca.com by May 14th of this year, 2021.
Eddie Kennison, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing super fantastic this morning, Matt. How about yourself, brother?
I'm doing great, man. I'm appreciative of you taking the time to hop on with us. I'm really excited about this episode as we talk a little bit about the new emerging role in college football. And it's relatively new. It's been around for a while, but you're seeing more universities and colleges across the country, and even high schools for that matter, have guys that are filling in this director of player development role. And I'm just curious to kind of get the podcast rolling. How would you describe your role at LSU, and what are some of the benefits that you see of having this position on the staff for a college football player and coaches for that matter?
Sure, and I appreciate that question. And I think for this particular role, in talking with Coach O, he particularly wanted this role to be filled by a former player. And before I accepted this position, Kevin Falk, who also played here at LSU, played with the Patriots, won some Super Bowls. He was the first 4 years ago to be given this position, first time ever in LSU history. Coach Falk got the running back coaching job, so they asked me to come in. And Coach O was very specific about having a former player come in. And I think of this role in really short terms of think of the word transition. And we have our young men, our young student athletes that are coming into our program from high school, and they need to have some guidance and some understanding of the transition from high school into our program here at LSU, and helping them incorporate, what's expected of them as young men. Getting ready for class, getting ready for football, getting ready to be able to handle their life off campus, because now they're away from their parents and they're away from a lot of rules that their parents have had on them for so long. So just incorporating them in that aspect. And for our guys that are already on campus, helping them getting ready to transition away from the game and away from school into everyday working life off campus. Whether they're going to play in the National Football League, or whether they're going to go into business for themselves, or whether they're going to find a job, helping them understand that transition from school, from football, into the real world, as we call it.
Right.
And with my experience, being a former athlete, being in seats that they're in now, transitioning out, and just my experience, being able to help them understand what's getting ready to happen. All aspects are different, but giving them, my avenue and how it potentially will look for them. So I just think of it as a transition from high school and into college, and transition from college into the real world.
Well, and that's really interesting how you put that. Just really, really very clear with that one word. I think if we all rewind back, I know you had the opportunity to go play at the next level, which I'm sure was still a tremendous transition at that point in time, going from, the speed of the game at LSU, which is extremely fast, to even faster speed of game. But, man, I rewind back, and as I talk to a lot of these coaches, and I talk to my former teammates and stuff, the two hardest transitions that we had in our lives was that transition to that. I don't want to say freedom, but when you had that freedom and you can sleep in if you want to, you can skip that class if you want to. Mom and dad aren't beating down the door, and then that transition to the real world. And I've said this before, a little bit more in my personal life, but I'll never forget the first time I had class at Baylor and I didn't have practice anymore because I was done. I exhausted all my eligibility, and I just sat in my house. I was like, this is what my house looks like at 4:00 in the afternoon. I've never seen it before, and I'm making light of it, but I was really like kind of lost, in that transition phase. So that is very important in assistance to these young athletes. Now, one of the things that I was talking to somebody else a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about. I was talking about being a receivers coach when I was coaching college ball, and how pretty much my reach was to those 16, 17 guys in the room, the couple of guys I recruited, but I didn't get to spend that much time with the defensive lineman, that's not from my recruiting area. I didn't get to know him very well, as much as I wanted to. Now, your position, you get to meet and talk to and develop, very in-depth relationships with, the kicker, the fifth string quarterback, all the way to your star player. Why are these relationships important to you, and why are they important to to those athletes in the program?
Yeah, thank you for that. It's very important to me because our young men, we need to understand as adults, which I never really got a lot of, is not telling them or telling our young men or just student athletes in general that the things that they're doing wrong, or they're not supposed to do X, Y, and Z. And I've learned over the years that it's not really that they're doing it wrong. They just don't know the majority of the time.
Right.
And us as adults, we lose sight of that. And we have to meet our young men, our young women, our student athletes. We have to meet them where they are and figure out what they're thinking. And if they did make a mistake, say, hey, this is why you made this mistake, or this is a way that I would have done it a little bit differently. And more times than not, the young student athletes, they're willing to learn. They're like sponges. They're like little kids. They want to learn as well. And instead of bashing them or beating them down, you have to meet them where they are and help them understand why they made that decision, and help them formulate a plan to not make that commitment again, or that decision again, and say, I would have done it differently. So we have to meet them where they are, not where we think they should go.
Absolutely. Now, Coach, you had a highly decorated career at LSU. So you had the opportunity, I'm sure it looked a lot different than it does now. But yeah, we had the opportunity to walk the halls and walk the campus and hang your helmet up and wear the purple and gold there down in Baton Rouge. What has changed, what really with this focus on I guess the shift in the landscape of college football in general, where you got ESPN, you got ESPN2, you got ESPN3, you just always have this look into a college football program, where back then it was a couple teams that played every Saturday that were on TV. You didn't know much about what was going on from the day to day. You just caught on for that 3 or 4 hours, and that was really kind of it. Now, with this microscope on every program across the country, you're seeing more coaches address culture, address, the things that I know you, as a director of player development, you address. What are some of the differences that you see personally? Been a LSU player. I think you finished up in '96, right? And now it's 2021. What are some of those differences that you see, especially in regards to culture, I guess?
Sure. Well, the game of football hasn't changed in, 60, 70, 100 years. It doesn't matter. The field is 100 yards long, 120 yards long with the end zone. The only thing to me, Matt, that is the major difference in culture is social media.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is right now. All players in all sports, they're able to share right now it's me moment. And, it's still a team atmosphere, but everything is so, how can I get the like? How can I get a response on my social media pages? How can I, be viewed on the sideline with my phone or in the locker room, with instant gratification? And if a lot of guys who aren't mentally strong, and women in all sports who aren't mentally strong, to say that I don't need an immediate like or an immediate response, that's really the only thing that I see that's different. And it's a major culture shift in everything that we see and everything that we do, because we have to be mindful, because there are cameras everywhere and they're always on. And we have to let our guys know that, something that when you put it out there, it's out there, good, bad, or indifferent. Once you hit send, it's there, and everything is immediate. But so far as like team camaraderie, guys being in the locker room, appreciating and building these relationships for future endeavors, that hasn't changed. So that's still a beautiful thing.
Amen. Now in that role of player development, can you talk to us a little bit about, some of your core values personally that you carry, and what you do day to day to make sure that you're carrying out these core values, that mission statement, those things that you truly believe in regards to developing student athletes?
Sure. Well, two very important things are character and integrity for me. I'm a man of God, and obviously I'm not perfect. I let the guys know in and around the building, players and coaches, faculty and staff, that I'm not perfect. That I will you will see me praying. I will pray with the guys. They come in my office. First thing we're going to do is pray before we do anything that we do. That's just who I am, and I try to do my best to walk in that character and integrity every single day, not just in the building. I have a tattoo on my arm. It says a man is measured by how hard he works when no one is watching. So even when no one is around me, I'm still diligent in sharing my prayers and about someone see me in a grocery store, how do I respond? How do I speak? How do that person or people see me on a day-to-day basis, outside of this building? So I want to make sure that I do my best to stay consistent with who I am as a man of God, with character and integrity, and I do my best to be that way every day. Again, I'm not perfect, but I try my best to be that way.
That's amazing, Coach. Now, just real quick, a dive into this player development position, as you got a ton of Division III, Division II NAIA programs across the country that probably don't have the budget to have this type of role, and haven't seen it kind of in person to know exactly what your interaction is. I'm sure they can kind of get a grasp of what the interaction is with the student athletes, but what is your day-to-day like with those 10, full-time, those core coaches? Like, what is your interaction with those guys? When do you have the opportunity to meet with them, talk with them, give them feedback, et cetera?
So it's just like any working environment. When the coaching staff, when they're not in meetings, I'm at practice or I'm walking the halls just to make sure that, we have everything covered. I'm asking the coaches questions. Have they heard anything from any one of their particular position players that I need to be aware of, or that I can go and address, with those guys, and just constantly asking them, about their personal lives as coaches, because a lot of times, they get forgotten, that they're human as well, and they have families and everything at home. So I try to make it a point to make sure I ask those guys about their families, make sure that they're good in their respective lives, and then with the guys in the locker room, making sure that I haven't missed anything, I need to go address something right away with the guys. So constant communication with the coaches on a daily basis, just checking in.
Now, you had the opportunity to spend a little time as an on-the-field coach. You spent some time at Mid-America Nazarene, and you did a few internships with the Chiefs and Eagles. And so you wore that, the football coach hat before. So understanding, what it's like to have that role, firsthand, what advice would you give to coaches who may not have the benefit of having a director of player development on their staff, in order to maybe achieve some of the stuff that you find yourself able to achieve, but they don't have the manpower?
Mm-hmm. And I go back to a comment I made earlier, meeting the players or the student athletes right where they are. Just because you're a coach doesn't make you right in all regards. So as we're teaching our young student athletes the game, we also need to be teaching them the game of life. And just because they're not mentally where you are, it doesn't mean that they're wrong. You just have to meet them where they are, figure out where they are, and help them formulate their game plan to move forward, whether it's in the real game or it's in the game of life. And that's the way I was kind of taught. I had, my position coach was Charlie Garner. He was 18 years vet, played the Chargers, now in the NFL Hall of Fame. That was my position coach. So I learned a lot of those things from him. And that's what I would tell young coaches or any coach in that regard, and how to approach their players.
Amen, Coach. Well, we had and I say we had, I know it's still ongoing at the moment, but it's been since March about 2020. It's been a crazy about a year and a half moving towards at this point in time. And you're coming up on your 1-year anniversary as the director of player development there at LSU. And so with the craziness of this last year, I'm sure you were called on quite a bit more than what you probably will be down the road. But I'm sure you were able to learn some valuable lessons and have some moments that, made you proud, some breakthrough opportunities here over the last year. Could you share just maybe some lessons that you learned and some of those key moments that have been really good for you as far as your personal growth?
Yeah, sure. So over the stretch where, the entire country shut down, and I was hired 4 days before the entire country was shut down. So, it was a curveball because, they asked me to fill this position. Now all of a sudden, no one's on campus. We're all at home. And one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is helping our guys understand how fast things can come to an end. It doesn't matter if it's football, doesn't matter if it's life, whatever the case may be, anything can happen at a moment's notice that can change the whole trajectory of your life. And how do we handle that when that happens? A lot of guys were at home by themselves. They're not used to being at home by themselves. How do we handle that mentally? How do we handle that physically? And how do we push through that aspect of that life-altering situation? And so one of the biggest lessons that I've learned was even myself with being away from everyone and then having to talk to guys via Zoom or FaceTime or something like that, and just seeing where they were mentally, where they were physically, and how do we push through that. And I tell you what, I couldn't be more proud of our coaching staff and our guys for the way they handled it. And in particular, our training staff, man, our doctors and training staff, everything was just so fast and so immediate, but they handled it with grace, and they did a fantastic job, and I couldn't be more proud of our entire staff and our players.
Coach, well, I want to be the first to say this. I'm sure you've heard this before, but 100% appreciate what you do personally to pour into these young people. It's extremely important. As I mentioned, so much transition in such a 4 to 5 year period. Some of these guys, especially at LSU, probably the transition could be shorter than that, just based off their talent level, and being able to aid and push that transition is huge. And so thank you for what you do. Much appreciated you hopping on and talking a little bit about this emerging role in college football. But before I let you go, hopefully you can drop a social media so guys can maybe get that magnifying glass a little bit into kind of what you do to maybe help them grow and develop as they move towards aiding their student athletes.
Sure, I appreciate that. My Instagram is Eddie III. And my Facebook is Eddie Kennison, and my Twitter is Steve Kennison. I probably should make all of those things the same so they're not all over the place. But yeah, Twitter is Kennison, Instagram is Eddie III, and Facebook is Eddie Kennison.
Well, we'll make it easy for the coaches. We'll make sure to link those in the show notes. So if they want to connect with you, they'll give you a click and a follow and kind of keep up with your journey. Once again, Coach, thank you for hopping on with us. Thank you for what you do, and look forward to catching up with you down the road, man.
Sounds good. Thank you guys for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thanks. Bye.